Well, they wanted you broken, they wanted you crawling, they wanted you begging for the crumbs of validation that fall off their rotten tables. But here you are, not dead, not defeated, not gone. Here you are, sharper than you've ever been. They targeted you because you looked harmless. They saw kindness and mistook it for weakness. They saw silence and mistook it for submission. They thought they could humiliate you into staying small. They thought they could tear you apart without consequence. But humiliation doesn't end you, it builds you. Every insult was training. Every laugh at your expense was weight on your back. Every betrayal was fuel. They gave you everything you needed to become unrecognizable. Understand this. Predators thrive only when the prey believes it's prey. They win only when you keep your head down, apologizing, explaining, waiting for them to treat you better. But the second you stand, the second you stop caring about their perception, the second you cut the leash, the predator loses power. Because they weren't gods, they were just people hiding behind cruelty. Humiliation is free training. It's the world showing you exactly where to build armor. It's the blueprint of your comeback. They laughed at you once, let them. They won't laugh when they see what you became. They'll choke on the silence you leave behind. Every failure, every rejection, every moment of being overlooked. Good. That's unpaid work you now owe to no one but yourself. That's the foundation for discipline. That's the reminder of what you'll never let happen again. They wanted you dependent. They wanted you insecure. They wanted you too scared to walk away. Instead, you became detached, dangerous, and cold. You don't break anymore. You don't beg anymore. You don't explain anymore. You move like someone who's already been to hell and built a home there. Nothing they do can shock you now. You've already survived the worst of them. They created their own nightmare. The very person they tried to humiliate now carries the fire they can't extinguish. The very soul they tried to crush now moves with discipline they can't match. They birthed the version of you that doesn't forgive, doesn't forget, doesn't bend. Weakness was what they expected, but you gave them silence, patience, and relentless focus. Weakness was the role they wrote for you, but you tore up the script. They don't get to define you. They don't get to measure you. They don't get to decide if you're worthy. They already lost the right to matter. And now you're the storm they can't control. Now you're the ghost they can't touch. Now you're the monster they accidentally created. Never forget, humiliation is not the end. It's the beginning. It's the fuel. It's the trigger. They wanted you weak, but weakness doesn't live here anymore. You are the nightmare they unlocked. You are the monster they built, and you will never bend again. The game was never fair. It was designed to break you before you even started. Every rule, every expectation, every silent contract built to keep you small, dependent, and begging for approval. That's what they don't tell you. It was never about fairness. It was about control. They called it survival of the fittest, but it wasn't survival. It was manipulation. The ones at the top needed you to believe they were stronger, smarter, untouchable. They needed you to bow, to accept your place, to stay in line. Their entire power was built on one thing, your belief in their illusion. And you played along, didn't you? You defended yourself. You argued. You tried to prove your worth. Every reaction, every desperate attempt to be understood, it kept the game alive. Because that's the trap. As long as you care what they think, they win. But the moment you stopped, the moment you saw through the bullshit, the moment you realized their throne was made of cardboard, the game collapsed. You changed the rules by refusing to play. You didn't fight for a seat at that table. You burned the table down and built your own. You stopped asking. You stopped waiting. You stopped needing. And when you stopped needing, you became dangerous. Because nothing scares a manipulator more than someone who doesn't respond to the strings. Their control wasn't real power. It was borrowed power, stolen from the ones who kept reacting. And you cut off the supply. Listen carefully. The game requires your participation. Without your anger, without your explanations, without your fear, the predator becomes pathetic. Without your attention, the hierarchy collapses. Without your care, the illusion dies. That's the real cheat code. Not playing harder, not proving more. Walking away, leaving the battlefield they built for you. They can't win if you don't show up. You want freedom? Detach. Detach from their approval. Detach from their labels. Detach from their entire system of validation. When you stop needing to be seen, you can't be humiliated. When you stop needing to be respected, you can't be disrespected. When you stop needing their game, you win by default. Power is not given. It is not granted by the fake kings who sit on their fake thrones. It is taken. It is built. It is owned. And you own it the moment you stop begging, the moment you stop playing by their script, the moment you realize that the rules only apply if you let them. They told you to stay quiet, so you spoke louder. They told you to stay small, so you grew ruthless. They told you to know your place, so you destroyed the map. That's what it means to change the rules. Not rebellion for attention, not chaos for validation, but cold, silent refusal to be controlled. And here's the truth they'll never admit. They're terrified of you now. Because they know the humiliation didn't break you. It woke you up. They know they can't bait you anymore. They know their games don't work. They know the leash snapped and the cage is empty. So they scramble. They whisper. They try to smear your name. They try to paint you as crazy, bitter, dangerous. Good. Let them. Every word they spit only proves one thing. They've lost their grip. And you don't flinch. You don't defend. You don't explain. You move in silence. Because silence is the loudest weapon. They thought you'd fight for scraps. They thought you'd beg for recognition. They thought you'd stay on your knees. Instead, you stood up, walked out, and made their entire system irrelevant. The game was rigged. But now, the rules don't exist. Because you rewrote them in blood, in silence, in fire. You didn't just survive. You dismantled the entire board. So remember this. Every time they try to drag you back in, it's because they know you're free. Every time they poke, it's because they're starving for your reaction. Every time they whisper your name, it's because your silence haunts them louder than your words ever could. They thought you were a pawn. You walked off the board, and when you walked off, their entire kingdom collapsed. The game was rigged. You changed the rules. You win by never playing again. They laughed at you. They mocked you. They pointed at your mistakes, your failures, your weak moments, and you let it cut deep. You let it burn. Good. Because that pain was the tuition. That humiliation was the classroom. That shame was the lesson. Humiliation is the fastest teacher. It strips you down to nothing, shows you who you really are, and dares you to rebuild. It doesn't give you comfort, it gives you scars. And scars don't lie. Every time they laughed, you were collecting fuel. Every insult was a weight added to your back. Every public failure was a private test. They thought they were humiliating you, but all they were doing was training you for war. You don't defend yourself anymore. Defense is weak. You sharpen yourself. You turn every word, every doubt, every disrespect into iron in your blood. You don't need to clap back. You don't need to explain. You don't need to prove them wrong in the moment. You sharpen your silence until the day your results cut louder than their mouths. Public defeat is private preparation. That's why you don't hide from embarrassment. You don't run from rejection. You don't cry when they point fingers. You stand there, you take it, and you let it carve you into something harder. Because humiliation is not the end, it's the beginning. It is not a curse, it's an advantage. It's not weakness, it's training. They thought they buried you under shame, but they didn't realize you were seeds. They thought they destroyed your reputation, but they didn't realize you were building a new one in silence. They thought you would stay down, but they didn't realize humiliation is addictive. The more you taste it, the more you crave revenge through improvement. You're not running from humiliation anymore. You're hunting it. You're chasing the uncomfortable rooms. You're putting yourself where you might fail, where you might be judged, where you might look stupid. Because that's where growth hides. That's where discipline is forged. That's where warriors are made. You've learned something most people never will. Humiliation kills the ego but builds the soul. The ego wants applause. The soul wants strength. Which one are you feeding? Listen. Humiliation is proof you tried. People who never fail are people who never risk. People who never get mocked are people who never step out of line. People who never get laughed at are people who never attempt shit worth talking about. So let them laugh. Let them talk. Let them point fingers. That's free confirmation you're in the arena and they're still in the crowd. They laughed, but you were becoming untouchable. They mocked, but you were stacking scars into armor. They disrespected you, but every time you swallowed it, you added another plate to your discipline. The weak want sympathy. The strong want humiliation, because humiliation is free training, and training means strength, and strength means freedom. Remember this, nobody remembers your embarrassing moments as much as you do. Nobody cares about your slip-ups as much as you think. The only one keeping those failures alive is you, and you can either let them rot in your head or let them feed your hunger. Humiliation is a mirror. It forces you to see the flaws. But instead of crying at the reflection, you break the glass and sharpen the shards. You don't hide from it, you weaponize it. Every failure is ammunition. Every insult is a bullet. Every laugh is a reminder that they underestimated you. And underestimation is your most powerful weapon. They thought you were weak. They thought you would quit. They thought the shame would drown you. But you used it to swim harder. You let it make you dangerous. You let it make you disciplined. You let it make you relentless. Next time humiliation comes, don't resist it. Absorb it, own it, laugh with them if you have to, because you already know how this ends. It ends with you turning every ounce of humiliation into fuel. It ends with you walking back into the room, unrecognizable. It ends with them silent, staring at the version of you their laughter created. So, stop fearing humiliation. It's not your enemy, it's your personal trainer. And it doesn't go easy on anyone. The ones who run from humiliation stay weak forever. The ones who face it, embrace it, and bleed through it, they become untouchable. Humiliation is just free training. And you? You're already stronger than the ones who tried to shame you. Because while they laughed, you built. They made you believe they were untouchable. They walked like gods, spoke like kings, and looked at you like prey. And you bought it. You thought they were above you, stronger, smarter, ruthless. But here's the truth. Predators only survive when prey keeps believing the illusion. The second you stop believing, the mask cracks. No one is invincible. Not them, not you, not anybody. They bleed, they doubt, they fear. They rot from the inside like everyone else. The only difference is they've been better at hiding it. Fear is their weapon. Fear is their currency. Fear is their mask. They project it and you absorb it. They roar and you freeze. They laugh and you shrink. And for years you thought that was power. But power is never real if it depends on your submission. Power is never real if it vanishes when you stop reacting. Their entire empire is built on your silence, your obedience, your fear. Take that away, and what's left? A fragile human being who needs control to feel alive. They don't want you to realize this. Their cruelty is not strength. It's weakness dressed in armor. Their confidence is not power. It's performance. Their dominance is not natural. It's stolen. Everything they are depends on you continuing to bow your head. But bowing your head is a choice, and the moment you lift it, you strip them naked. You see the lies, you see the cracks, and you finally understand they bleed too. Predators aren't gods. They're parasites. They don't build. They don't create. They feed. And the second you stop feeding them with your fear, they starve. The second you refuse to play their game, they crumble. You've been conditioned to think they're stronger than you. But ask yourself this, if they were so strong, why did they need to humiliate you to feel powerful? Why did they need to belittle you, control you, crush you? Because deep down, they're terrified. Terrified that one day you'll see them for what they are. Fragile, insecure, human. And now you do. You don't fight predators with fear. You fight them with indifference. You don't scream back. You don't defend yourself. You stand still and let them implode in their own emptiness. Because when you stop feeding the illusion, it dies in front of you. Remember this, the predator thrives on your belief. When you believe they're untouchable, they win. When you believe you're weak, they win. When you believe you need them, they win. But the game ends the second you stop believing. The second you refuse to give them the reaction they're desperate for. The second you strip away their mask and see them for what they really are. Breakable, replaceable, forgettable. You want to know how to kill a predator? Don't swing harder. Don't shout louder. Don't beg for fairness. Simply stop giving them the one thing they can't live without, your fear. They want your energy. They want your anger. They want your validation. Starve them of all three, and they suffocate. The predator only exists when the prey submits, but you're done being prey. You're done bending. You're done believing the lie that they're above you, because predators bleed too, and once you see that, you'll never fear them again. They unleashed their cruelty to humiliate you. They tried to break you with fear, but all they did was expose their own weakness. And now you know the truth. Gods don't bleed, humans do, and they've been human all along. Silence is not weakness. Silence is war without noise. It's the cut they never see coming. Every time you react, you feed them. Every time you explain yourself, you hand them the knife. Every time you defend yourself, you confirm their power, and they live for it. They thrive on your energy, your anger, your attention. The truth is simple. Manipulators starve when ignored. Toxic people rot when you refuse to water them. Liars collapse when no one argues back. You don't have to fight them on their battlefield. You don't have to scream louder, beg harder, or prove a damn thing. You strip them of their control by cutting off the oxygen supply, your reaction. Silence is not passive. It's active warfare. It's you choosing to break the cycle. It's you refusing to let them see you bleed. It's you slamming the door so hard it never opens again. Understand this. Their cruelty doesn't exist in a vacuum. It only matters if you respond. It only hurts if you hold on. It only grows if you give it space in your mind. Silence is a mirror. And when you hold it up, they're forced to face themselves. That's why they hate it. That's why they chase you harder when you go quiet, because silence exposes the truth they're running from. When you stop talking, they can't twist your words. When you stop explaining, they can't misrepresent your story. When you stop defending, they can't paint you as guilty. You leave them with nothing but themselves. And most people can't survive their own reflection. Every insult, every guilt trip, every manipulation, it dies when it hits silence. You don't block them for revenge. You don't ignore them for attention. You disappear because your peace is no longer up for negotiation. This is not about being the bigger person. It's about being the smarter one. It's about understanding that every time you step into the mud, you get dirty too. So stop stepping in. Let them scream into the void. Let them argue with shadows. Let them tell stories to walls that don't answer back. That's what silence feels like to them, suffocation. And here's the part they'll never admit. Silence scares them more than your anger ever did, because anger means they still own space in your head. But silence? Silence means you moved on. Silence means they're irrelevant. Silence means they lost the game. You want to win? Don't react. You want peace? Don't respond. You want revenge? Let them destroy themselves while you stand untouched. The most dangerous version of you is the one who doesn't flinch, doesn't beg, doesn't explain. The one who hears the lies and doesn't even blink. The one who sees the manipulation and doesn't even waste a word. That's the version they can't break. That's the version they fear. Remember, silence is not emptiness. It's full of control. It's full of strength. It's full of a power most people will never master. So let them try. Let them bait you. Let them throw their tantrums. They'll drown in their own noise while you walk away in peace. You don't owe anyone a reaction. You don't owe anyone a response. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing yourself. Silence is your sharpest blade. Use it. Cut deep and never look back. They thought humiliation would destroy you. They thought shame would silence you. They thought breaking you would end you. But humiliation doesn't end warriors. It forges them. They didn't kill you. They welded steel into your spine. Pain is the forge. You are the steel. Every insult was the hammer. Every betrayal was the fire. Every night you swallowed tears was another strike shaping you into something unrecognizable. You don't beg anymore. You don't react anymore. You don't bend anymore. Because once you've been burned alive, in humiliation, nothing else can touch you. The worst already happened, and you're still here. They wanted you broken, but they only built discipline. They wanted you dependent, but they only gave you control. They wanted you silent, but now your silence is lethal. Understand this. They don't hate who you are now. They hate what they created. They hate that their cruelty gave you strength they can't handle. They hate that they unleashed a fighter they'll never cage again. You fight differently now. Not with screams, not with desperate explanations. You fight with control, precision, and silence. You've learned to cut deeper with no words at all. They used to expect your breakdowns. Now they choke on your calm. They used to expect your anger. Now they collapse under your indifference. That's what terrifies them, not that. You're loud, but that you don't need to be. Not that you're vengeful, but that you don't even care enough to respond. Control is the weapon they can't steal from you. They created a fighter, but not the kind they wanted. They created the kind of fighter who studies pain until pain becomes irrelevant. The kind who feels betrayal but doesn't crumble. The kind who sees through lies and never falls for them again. You learn that real power isn't about domination. It's about control. Control of your emotions, control of your energy, control of who gets access to you. They can't reach you anymore. They can't bait you anymore. They can't touch you anymore because you've mastered the one thing they never could, restraint. Every time you refuse to react, you win. Every time you keep building in silence, you win. Every time you walk away without explanation, you win. They don't know what to do with you now. They used to feed on your reactions. They used to thrive on your weakness. Now they starve in your absence. You're not the victim anymore. You're the storm they can't control. You're the silence that crushes them louder than words ever could. You're the lesson they didn't mean to teach but can't escape now. Humiliation didn't end you. It disciplined you. Pain didn't destroy you. It sharpened you. And now you're unrecognizable to the people who thought they had you figured out. They created a fighter who doesn't need approval, a fighter who doesn't waste words, a fighter who knows peace is power and detachment is domination. They built this, and they'll regret it every day they try to reach the version of you that doesn't exist anymore. They created a fighter they can't control, and that fighter is you. They wanted you to play weak. They wanted you to bow, to chase, to keep feeding their ego. They projected their emptiness onto you so they could feel full. But weakness was never yours. It was theirs. Bullies only exist if you believe the mask. Predators only hunt if you agree to be prey. The game was never about strength. It was about illusion. And the second you stopped playing, the mask cracked. They looked powerful because you gave them power. They looked fearless because you handed them your fear. They looked untouchable because you kept touching the wound they gave you. The truth? They're nothing. Just fragile humans dressing up as gods. Your silence exposes them. Your refusal to react becomes the mirror. And when the mirror stares back, they see themselves for the first time. Not a predator, not a genius, not a king. Just another weak, insecure fraud. They can't stand it. Because the mirror strips them naked. The mirror doesn't clap. The mirror doesn't flinch. The mirror doesn't feed them the lies they live on. The mirror forces them to face the rot they've been hiding behind. Their cruelty. And here's the truth. You never had to destroy them. You never had to fight their war. All you had to do was stop playing. Stop giving them the fuel. Stop letting their words shape your reflection. Bullies collapse without prey. Predators starve without fear. The frauds you once bowed to crumble under their own weight. Because without your energy, without your reactions, without your weakness, they're just human. Every insult they threw at you was a confession. Every humiliation was their own shame in disguise. They weren't attacking you. They were leaking themselves onto you, projecting their failures, projecting their insecurities, and you carried it like it was yours. But now, you dropped it. You threw it back in their face without saying a word. Your silence is the weapon they never prepared for. Because silence doesn't argue, silence doesn't explain, silence reflects. And when the reflection comes back, they can't run, they can't hide, they can't pretend anymore. They told you you were nothing. But the truth? They needed you to believe it because without you, they're nothing. They can't define themselves without someone to crush. They can't pretend to be strong without someone weaker to compare against. So when you rise, when you refuse, when you stand still and cold, they collapse. You don't destroy them. They destroy themselves. You just hold the mirror. You don't have to scream. You don't have to prove. You don't have to fight. Your presence is enough. Your silence is enough. Your refusal is enough. They built their empire on your back. But the second you stop carrying the weight, the empire falls. Not because you tore it down, but because it was always hollow. That's the truth. They never wanted you to know. They were never stronger than you. They were just better at convincing you to play weak. And once you stopped, once you stared back without fear, without care, without reaction, they broke. The mirror is merciless. It doesn't lie. It doesn't flatter. It doesn't forgive. It just shows. And what it shows them is unbearable. That's why they'll hate you when you stop playing. Not because you attacked them. Not because you betrayed them, but because you stopped believing in the illusion. You shattered the trick. You made them face themselves. And here's the irony. They set out to humiliate you. They thought they could turn you into nothing. But in the end, it's them who can't. Stand their own reflection. You became the mirror, and the mirror breaks them first. Respect is not handed out like a free sample. Respect is not a gift. Respect is not earned by begging, explaining, or waiting. Respect is ripped from the world by force, by action, by the cold. Proof that you cannot be ignored. You've been waiting too long, waiting for apologies, waiting for validation, waiting for someone to look at you and finally admit you were enough. Stop waiting. No one is coming. The truth is brutal. People respect what they can't control. People respect what doesn't bend. People respect what stands unshaken, even when they try to bury it. And that means respect is never given, it's taken. You've begged for it before. You lowered your standards. You let them step on you just to keep the peace. And every time you thought silence or kindness would win you respect, it backfired. They didn't respect your kindness. They mistook it for weakness. They didn't respect your silence. They mistook it for fear. They didn't respect your love. They used it as leverage. So now you change the rules. You stop waiting. You stop begging. You stop hoping. You take it. And taking respect doesn't mean screaming. It doesn't mean threatening. It doesn't mean proving yourself with words. It means building yourself into someone undeniable. It means working in silence while they waste their time mocking you. It means disappearing from their world until they realize you never needed them. It means stacking win after win until your name tastes like blood in their mouth. When you take respect, you don't ask. You don't send reminders. You don't announce your moves. You just show up one day as the version of yourself they swore you could never be. And you don't give them the satisfaction of acknowledgement. You don't need their clap. You don't need their recognition. You don't need their validation. Because the respect you've built is not for them. It's for you. And here's the part they'll hate most. They can't dismiss you anymore. They can't pretend you're irrelevant. They can't laugh you off because the proof is standing right in front of them. You, unshaken, unmoved, unstoppable. Respect is not an apology. Respect is not a trophy. Respect is a weight you carry, earned through pain, through discipline, through refusing to break. They'll call you cold for it. They'll call you arrogant. They'll say you've changed. Good. Let them choke on it. Because what they're really saying is that they can't manipulate you anymore. Respect comes the moment you say no without guilt. Respect comes when you stop explaining yourself. Respect comes when you stop letting people rent space in your head. Respect comes when you walk away without a second glance. You are not here to be liked. You are not here to be understood. You are not here to play the role they wrote for you. You are here to stand so firm that even your absence shakes the room. And when you get there, when you've taken the respect you deserve, you won't need to rub it in their face. They'll see it every time they look at you. They'll feel it every time your name comes up. They'll remember it every time they realize they underestimated you. Respect is not given, it is seized. It is demanded. Without words. It is built in silence. It is held by those who refuse to bend. So stop waiting for someone to hand it to you. Stop begging for crumbs. Stop crying for validation. Take it, build it, own it, and let them choke on the fact that you'll never be dismissed again. They fed on your weakness. They thrived in the chaos you couldn't control. Every time you cracked, they smiled. Every time you slipped, they tightened their grip. But that era is finished. Discipline is the executioner of their games. Structure is the knife that cuts their strings. Routine is the chokehold that suffocates everything they once had over you. They don't expect you to be disciplined. They expect you to stay sloppy, distracted, broken. They expect you to keep reacting, keep chasing, keep stumbling in circles. Because that's where they win, in your chaos. But you've left that battlefield. Now your life is a system. Your mind is a fortress. Your time is a weapon. And every move you make is precise, controlled, untouchable. Discipline doesn't scream. It doesn't post. It doesn't brag. It moves in silence, carving victories in places no one else can see. Then one day, it unveils the results. undeniable, unshakable, unstoppable. Their chaos was noise. Your discipline is silence. And silence terrifies them because silence means control. You're not chasing their drama anymore. You're not letting their manipulations dictate your emotions. You're not burning hours explaining yourself to people who never deserved your words. Control your reactions and you own the war. Let them bait you. Let them scream. Let them throw every insult they can. It doesn't matter. You don't flinch. You don't answer. You don't even give them a twitch of recognition. That's when they realize their power is gone. Their chaos collapses because your order is a wall they can't climb. Your schedule, your focus, your refusal to break, it starves them of oxygen. They suffocate in your calm. Routine is your rebellion. Waking up early, working in silence, grinding when no one's watching, that's how you kill their influence. Every time you rise, every time you put in the work, every time you stay consistent while they're distracted, you bury them deeper because they can't outlast someone who shows up every single day. They thought humiliation would end you. They thought betrayal would shatter you. They thought chaos would consume you. Instead, it disciplined you. You turned the mess into a method. You turned the pain into a plan. You turned their games into your fuel. Understand this. Discipline is the purest revenge. Not anger, not screaming, not proving yourself to them. Discipline. Because discipline builds results. And results don't need defending. They speak in silence and they speak forever. Every day you rise without them, they lose. Every goal you crush without announcing it, they lose. Every silent victory, every private win, every moment you choose focus over chaos, they lose. Because nothing destroys manipulators faster than being irrelevant. They want you unstable. They want you emotional. They want you addicted to their approval. But your discipline is proof that you don't need them. Not to validate you, not to guide you, not to save you. They can't compete with your structure. They can't match your grind. They can't comprehend the patience it takes to stick with the plan long after the feeling has faded. They chase dopamine. You chase results. That's why they'll always lose. Discipline isn't glamorous. It's not exciting. It's brutal repetition. It's sacrifice. It's saying no 10,000 times to every distraction, every fake friend, every temptation that drags you back into weakness. And that's exactly why it makes you unstoppable. You don't outscream them. You outlast them. You don't outplay their games. You stop playing altogether. You don't argue for respect. You build a life that forces it. They will hate you for your discipline. They will call you obsessed, cold, robotic, good. Let them. They hate you because they can't be you. They can't commit like you do. They can't sacrifice like you do. They can't stay focused while the world is burning. But you can. Your discipline will choke the life out of their chaos. Your consistency will expose their weakness. Your control will outlast their noise. Because in the end, the one who wins is not the loudest, not the cruelest, not the one who throws the hardest punches. The one who wins is the one who refuses to break routine, who refuses to lose control, who refuses to quit. No matter how much it hurts. Discipline is their defeat. Every single day you stick to it, you bury them deeper. Every single day you build in silence, you write their irrelevance. Every single day you choose structure over chaos, you remind them they created a monster they can't touch anymore. And that's how you win, not by fighting their chaos, but by becoming the discipline they'll never survive. They told you he was untouchable. They told you he was above you, beyond you, stronger than you. They called him a predator, a god, a force of nature. They wanted you to bow. They wanted you to break. They wanted you to believe you were powerless, and you almost did. Until you realized the truth, gods only exist when you worship them. Predators only win when you act like prey. Bullies only thrive when you care. And the second you stopped caring, the mask fell off. You saw it. Behind the arrogance, behind the cruelty, behind the games, he was just another fragile human. Weak, breakable, small. The god they unleashed was nothing but a man pretending not to bleed. They expected humiliation to crush you. They expected shame to silence you. Instead, it stripped you clean. It burned away the weakness. It burned away the need for approval. It burned away the part of you that wanted their respect. Now you walk without chains. Now you move without fear. Now you look at the predator and see nothing worth fearing at all. Understand this, their power was never real. It was borrowed from your reactions. It was stolen from your belief in their superiority. It was built on the illusion that you were less. The moment you killed that illusion, you killed their power. They can't humiliate what no longer cares. They can't control what no longer plays the game. They can't dominate someone who knows the truth. Nobody is. Untouchable. You've learned the secret they never wanted you to know. Even the ones who sit on pedestals are rotting inside. Even the ones who laugh the loudest are drowning in silence. Even the ones who play gods are just men in masks. And when you see it clearly, when you strip away the illusion, you realize you don't have to fight them. You just have to stop feeding them. Predators starve without prey. Gods crumble without worship. And bullies collapse when the victim walks away unfazed. That's why your silence destroyed him. That's why your indifference made him unravel. Because the moment you stopped playing weak, he was forced to face himself. And what he saw was not a predator. It was a scared, fragile human hiding behind noise. That's why you won. Not because you shouted louder, not because you fought harder, but because you saw the truth. You made him human again. And there's nothing more humiliating for a man who pretends to be a god than being reminded of his humanity. You didn't need revenge. You didn't need violence. You didn't need an audience. You only needed control of yourself. That's what broke him. They'll tell stories about strength, about survival of the fittest, about the strong eating the weak, but they'll never admit the truth. The strong aren't the loudest, the cruelest, or the most feared. The strong are the ones who refuse to be controlled, the ones who move on without flinching, the ones who don't feed the monster. You don't care if he speaks your name. You don't care if he pretends he won. You don't care if he still plays the god for the crowd, because you've seen him without the mask. And once you've seen that, he can never be more than human again. This is the ultimate victory. Not proving him wrong, not beating him at his own game, not getting the applause. The ultimate victory is knowing you're untouchable. The ultimate victory is knowing he can't reach you anymore. The ultimate victory is watching a so-called predator shrink back into nothing more than a desperate man clinging to an image. You didn't just survive him, you outlived him, you outgrew him. You outlasted the illusion he built, and now, when they whisper his name like he's still a legend, you won't flinch, because you know the truth. You made him human again. And once a god has been exposed as human, he can never go back. So don't waste time proving yourself. Don't waste energy explaining yourself. Don't waste a second on the opinions of the crowd that once believed in him. They're irrelevant. He's irrelevant. The only thing that matters now is the discipline you forged, the strength you earned, the peace you took back. That's the ending they never saw coming. They thought they unleashed a predator to humiliate you. But in the end, they just revealed a man, and you walked away untouchable.